We're talking about looking to others to fulfill our desires. I do have manifestations. For the most part, I don't know what my desires are or how to feel a desire.
Sometimes people are so afraid that they're going to get it wrong that they don't let themselves play and experience for fear you might see something that you don't want, and then you'd have to assign yourself the label of imperfect or inappropriate or something. And so there's a little bit of that guardedness going on, isn't there?
There is.
Some years ago, we were visiting with a woman, and she said sort of what you just said. And of course, we knew that she has desires, so we were just sort of feeling around to see if we could prime the pump a little bit. And so we'd say, well, what about that? And she'd say, well, I've already got that. And we'd say, well, what about that? Well, I've already got that too. And after a little while, it was evident that she thought that a desire was only about things not yet manifested. And we want you to understand that there is an eternally ongoing desire that can be incredibly and forever satisfying. Just the desire to be present, the desire to have a good time, the desire to be of value, the desire to have good timing, the desire to understand, the desire to be aware, the desire to recognize your own guidance system. Is it possible that you have desires that are fulfilled? In other words, are you telling us that you feel uncomfortable at how satisfied you are with life, and like maybe there should be more things that...
I feel that, for instance, desiring to come here, we bookended it with the San Rafael and this one. It was our first time. And when I got to San Rafael, it was like I felt like an imposter. I didn't feel like I belonged there. Like, not that I belonged there, but why am I here? And is this crazy? And I just had such a hard time settling into it. I was wanting a newer vehicle. It took me 1.5 years, and I manifested the exact vehicle. And when it came through, I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger and pay the money for it. Like, it's like I don't know. It's like when they happen, I just all of a sudden can't enjoy it. Don't allow myself to enjoy it. Or who am I? I don't know.
Yeah, we get your point. We're teasing you just a little bit. Let's chew just a little bit and see if we can stir something up. Is there anything in your world that interests you? And we're not being as snarky as that question sounded. What rings your bells? Anything?
Energy work.
So, what do you mean by that?
I have a few people that I talk to that do it's kind of some, not Reiki, but some energy work, and we talk about about this kind of stuff.
All right.
Not too many, though.
How do you breathe life into someone? We mean anyone. When someone feels like this, like nothing's very exciting and I don't know what to do and nothing's really gone wrong. In fact, if you went home and your house had burned down, you'd come alive. Oh, good, more things to want. We're asking everyone, but we're really directing this at you. What is it that, from your experience about yourself, causes you to rise to an occasion?
I'm a great organizer, and when somebody needs something done, I get it done.
And is it fun?
Yeah.
You like to get things done. Is it about progress? Do you like to see improvement?
Yeah.
So what was the last thing that somebody asked you to help them organize and that you got done?
Somebody's home. Organize their kitchen and stuff.
So you do not count that as a desire? You like to interact with people? You like to be of value?
I do. So I'm not a depressed person by any means. I'm an uplifter. I'm a,
It doesn't show.
I'm really nervous. I'm not.
We believe that about you. But the reason that we wanted to have this conversation with you is because you are representative of a lot of people in that you have acquiesced or acclimated to the environment around you, and you don't reach very far beyond it. So life just keeps being more of what is. And even if life is good, more of what isn't enough. More of the same isn't what you signed on for. You signed on for, and by that we mean you came into this environment wanting a desire to happen within you, even a desire that you don't think that you can manage right now, because the exhilaration in life is closing that gap. Just like it's fun to clean up a messy house or to organize a disorganized house. So it's the same sort of thing. It's closing the gap is what feels fun. But what happens with a lot of people is that because they are accustomed to managing things through behavior and action, they don't bite off more than they think they can chew, and they don't let themselves go places that they don't think they really can go. So they might have a bucket list, but they don't believe it. And so they just sort of settle into something that is stable, but something that isn't really ringing their bells. This question has been asked of us many times through the years. Abraham, is it better to reach for something that you know you can reach and then accomplish it, and then reach again and then accomplish it, and then reach again and then accomplish it, so that you never get too far out of whack? Or is it better to really want something that you don't believe that you can get and then find a way of moving forward? And we say it depends on how you feel about the exhilaration of what you all call drama. If you want it and get it and 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 want it and get it, that could be a really nice life, certainly in comparison with people who want it and don't get it and want it and don't get it and want it and don't get it. But to want it and not get it, and then to want it and then still not get it, and then to want it and still not get it, all the time that you're aware of what you're not getting, you're calibrating what you do want until you've created something that has strong pulling power, and then you let yourself move toward it. That's exhilarating. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would play it both ways. We'd be stable, but we would let ourselves reach for things that we really, 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 really want. And the thing is, this is the thing that's got you tripped up. Whatever your current ability to attract is, and we're talking about vibration primarily, but we're also talking about people who are helping you, or limitations that you feel that you might have, or financial limitations that you have or don't have. In other words, wherever you are standing, most people are in a sort of rut because they're used to accomplishing what they're accomplishing, and they're used to living what they're living. But you've got a motor running inside of you. You have a vortex that would keep you busy for 20 or 30 lifetimes, and you're not letting yourself look there. We have a big question. Why? Why? And we have a big answer too. The big answer is because I'm afraid if I look and don't get, then I'll be misunderstood by others, or I'll be embarrassed, something like that.
We don't have a wide circle of friends that think like we do. As a matter of fact,
good.
On the trip coming here, it was kind of, oh, well, we're going to visit family, but it was family, but it was mostly around this as well. And it felt like a secret, and it felt like I don't want to say a dirty little secret, but a secret. And that didn't feel good.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're accustomed to seeing most people doing what we just described. And when you start doing something different than that, you do sort of stand out. When you let yourself think about one, the reason that Esther's having a hard time finding words around this is because we always reach into you to find desires that are being trampled by resistance. But what's happening here is it's not that your desires are being trampled by resistance. It's been that you haven't been letting yourself have desires for fear that they would be trampled by resistance. Sometimes people offer the words, I'm afraid to fail, or I'm afraid to succeed. And we always tease them a little bit because they're not afraid of their success. They're afraid of wanting something that they can't get. So in the cluster of people that surround you, are they paying a lot of attention to you? And do you care a lot about what they think? Yes, yes. There's nothing wrong with that. It's sort of a normal way to live life, except that then you're limited by the averages of those who surround you. And most people, especially as they move through life, they don't let themselves believe in the big stuff, you see. So in your wildest dreams, can you even find something? Do you remember something that you thought about when you were a youngster or when you were a teenager or when you first got married? Do you remember ever wanting anything that just seemed extraordinarily ridiculous because it seemed so far out of reach? Do you remember a glimpse of something like that?
Sure, like a nice country home for sure.
Are you living in that now?
No.
What was it about that that appealed to you?
It's just the rustic feeling that brings warmth and comfort.
Well, have you got warmth and comfort where you are?
For sure.
Then tell us something else that you want. It wasn't the country home that you wanted. It was warmth and comfort, and you got that. So now what?
I'm just blank.
All right. We're going to look into your vortex, and we're going to tell you some of the things that are there. And you might remember some of them and you might not, but you put every one of them there because of something that happened. We will not betray anything that you don't want anybody to know about. Oh, there's so much in there. There's so much in there. So you are an entertainer, uplifter entertainer, who doesn't do very much of that. Why do you think that is?
Fear of being judged?
Yeah. Yeah. You are a byproduct, as is almost everyone you know, a byproduct of the way people respond to you. So if you let yourself want something a little bit, and then you look at those, a lot of times it's not even them judging you, it's you expecting them to judge you. But it sort of creates a pattern of not standing out because you don't want someone to feel critical of you. And the reason that you don't want somebody to feel critical of you is because when somebody feels critical of you, it's hard for you to not go there too. This is the reason that we're talking about getting out ahead of it and calibrating it. Because can you feel the vicious cycle it is that here you are and people see you and they have opinions about you and you'd like to change those opinions, but you know it's kind of futile because you've had so many conversations with so many of them and you know how they feel, how a lot of people feel. So picture all of those people that we were talking about that are on that football field, that are all gathered into their little clumps, and each little clump is sort of criticizing all the other clumps. That's a pretty accurate depiction of the way the world can be, and you are a really good representation of someone who got sort of, without meaning to, trapped in one of those clumps, and now you don't know what to do about it. Well, what we want you to hear from us, and this will free you, we don't want you to try to find other clumps that you might migrate to. We want you to understand that there are people in every one of those clumps, in the clump that you stand in included, who are reaching for the same things that you are reaching for. In other words, believe us when we say that there are only two groups, those under the influence of Source and those not. So what you are explaining with your words and with the way you're feeling is that you haven't for a while, even though you've been doing energy work and wanting to, you haven't been under the influence of who you really are. You've been under the influence of those who you don't want to criticize you. They don't mean to criticize you. They just feel criticized too. If someone resents you, you know what you usually do? Resent them back. If somebody doesn't like you, you know what you usually do? You don't like them back. And you know what that is? Creation by default. That's not creation by deliberate intent, and it never feels good. Can you give us an example, don't do it if you don't want to, of something where you're afraid to move in some way because you didn't want to feel criticized? Anything come to mind?
As a parent, I often withhold what I really feel for fear of being criticized.
Good. This is a really good example. So you're feeling something and you don't say it because you don't want to be criticized. But law of attraction gives you away. Stay with us. You didn't say the words, so you think it is your secret, but it isn't, because the way you feel is the way you feel, and the way you feel is soliciting, and what you're soliciting is what you feel. So even though you don't say it because you don't want to be criticized, you feel criticized even though you didn't say it. Isn't that right?